Hello, everybody, and welcome to our webinar, How to Create Your Dream Life in Pilates. My name is Emma, and I'm a master trainer at Unite Health, and I'm so excited to be your host tonight. I'm also joined here by the amazing Laura, wherever she is on the screen for you. She's our amazing Unite Health course expert. So we are really, really excited to be here with you, as well as our amazing panelists I will be introducing in a little moment. Tonight, we want to give you an insight into what your life could look like in Pilates. Whether you're looking to begin your journey in Pilates, or maybe you've been in the industry for a while and are looking for some inspiration, we want to show you the different pathways a Pilates certification can lead you to. And to do that, we will be joined by those three special guest speakers that I've already hinted to, where they will be sharing a little insight into where Pilates has taken them. First, I thought I'd share with you a little about my own experience in this beautiful industry that is Pilates. So I'm based in Melbourne, that's where I'm joining you here from. And I did grow up in Perth, where I did train as a professional dancer in ballet and contemporary. From there, I made the big move to Melbourne to pursue a career as a contemporary dancer. And the advice I got given from a lot of friends in the industry was to get a job being an instructor. So I jumped straight into teaching barre, which was a lovely natural progression from being a ballerina, being a dancer. And within a few months of teaching, I just fell in love with the lifestyle of instructing. And I knew Pilates was always something that fascinated me with my dance career. So I did my Pilates qualification and then quickly went on to teach hundreds of classes, which I just absolutely loved. So my first job as an official Pilates instructor was with a big company called KX Pilates, which I'm sure a few of you joining with us tonight have heard of. With KX, I was there for quite a few years, and I was able not just to teach as an instructor in their studios, but I was able to then go on and mentor trainers and work in the training department of the KX instructors, which I really loved, which kind of had led me now to where I am with Unite Health. So already just within that, I love how many pathways there are. You're not just going to teach. If you want to do some other things, there are so many other opportunities you've got, even if it's studio managing, doing the Instagram, replying to emails. So from the studio perspective, there's so much you can do. Unfortunately, COVID hit though, and Melbourne was obviously very hard hit with that. And it made me kind of veer off into a little bit of a different direction. So with COVID hitting, it forced me to get out and go and teach more for myself, for my own brand. And I built my one-on-one private Pilates clients. So through lockdown, there was a brief moment we were allowed to teach one-on-one outdoors. So that was nice. So I built up a huge database of one-on-one private clients. And then I just fell in love with that private, intimate style of teaching Pilates. From there, I managed to create a pretty successful online business through lockdown, teaching group classes, teaching one-on-one classes, all the works there. Now, post-COVID, I am still teaching a few of my one-on-one clients. So I am what I call myself a mobile Pilates instructor. I don't have my own studio, but I go around to my clients' houses. Some of them are lucky enough to have reformers. Some of them don't, and we just do mat work. We're really catering it to that client, and I love that side of things. And then the other big thing I do is I have a company in corporate wellness. So myself specializing in Pilates, and in the corporate industry, Pilates is the hottest thing right now. So I've got a lot of Pilates instructors working for me across Australia, teaching Pilates to all different types of office workers, through big buildings in the city or out in the suburbs at schools. So lots of options there. And I think I've done a few other things, but I think I'll stop talking about myself. But hopefully that already gives you a little bit of an insight how many opportunities there are within this industry. And the best thing I love sharing with people who are looking into getting into the industry or managing their workload in the industry is that it is so flexible for you to go out and do exactly what you want to do with it. Whether you want to work 1 hour a week, 5 hours a week, or 40 hours a week, there is options there anywhere you go. So that's enough about me. Laura, before we get into it, can you please give us a little rundown of who we are and what we do here at Unite Health?
Yes, absolutely. Thank you so much to everyone who's joined us tonight. We're so excited to share with you all the different pathways that are available through completing up the APPI training. But to give you guys a little bit of background about who we are, APPI is a Pilates education provider that's actually been in the industry for over 20 years now. So we teach this education in 24 other countries around the world. So it is an internationally recognized certification that we provide. And the best part about the training itself is that you come and do the one training with us, and then you're 100% ready to start teaching. So no other courses, nothing else like that. We like to take out all the messiness for you and say, hey, come and do your 14 days of training with us, work through your logbook hours, and then sit your assessments, and you're ready to start teaching. So, that's what we really want to provide for you guys, is that course that you can come and it's your one-stop training, and that's going to prepare you to then be able to work in whatever capacity you like. And you're going to hear from so many amazing people tonight about what they've done with their journeys. So it'll give you some really great insight about the opportunities in the industry and where you can go post-training with us. So it's going to be super, super exciting, and we can't wait to sort of run through everything with you guys tonight. Make sure to stay on right till the end though, because we do have a little special announcement to go live. So it's just going to be a really exciting hour, and we can't wait. So I'll pass it back to you, Emma, and we'll get started on the evening.
Thank you so much, Laura. So now to one of my favourite parts of the night. It's introducing our inspiring panelists. So I'll let them turn their cameras on and we'll say hello. Just seeing if our cameras are turning on. All right, looks like we've got a little bit of a technical difficulty. I am very sorry about that, everybody. Give us one moment. Are our panelists there?
Hi, Emma. We can hear you, but we can't turn our cameras off. I think you might need to do it for us.
Yeah, that is interesting. We did try this earlier and it worked. So give me one moment. I am struggling. Laura, of course, helping me out. Hopefully, I can only unmute you and I can't turn your cameras on. I'm just going to go into the back end. Yeah, okay, I think I've got a plan. Sorry, guys. Let's try this.
Hi.
Go. All right, Pilates instructor and Zoom technician. Okay. So sorry for that brief moment, everybody. We are back and we have some lovely smiling faces to join me, which is a huge relief. So these are our inspiring panelists. Our first panelist I want to introduce you to is Elise Blight from New South Wales. Hi, Elise. Elise completed her Pilates instructor certification with us 2 years ago, and upon graduating started working in the industry part-time. She then fell in love with the industry so much that she recently decided to take the leap of faith and quit her 9-to-5 office job to be a Pilates instructor full-time. I love that so much. Thank you for joining us, Elise. Our next panelist is Katie Joyce from South Australia. Hi, Katie. Katie completed her training with us in 2017 and now owns with her husband the amazing Cadence Pilates studios in South Australia. Thank you for being with us tonight, Katie. And last but not least, we have our final panelist, Alex Wall. Hi, Alex. Alex is the lovely general manager of Unite Health and also a Pilates instructor. She's a mum to a beautiful 11-month baby girl and serves as the chair of the board at One Girl and a non-executive director on the board of Safe Steps. Alex, I don't know how you do it all. Thank you for joining us tonight. So we are going to kick off the Q&A part of our discussion led by me. So I've got a lovely list of questions to be asking our panelists, and we're going to have a bit of a natural conversation from there. We do really, really encourage you all that are with us tonight to jump on the chat and ask us any questions that you might have. We can't see you, but we have a team monitoring your questions. So hopefully we'll be able to reply as we go tonight. If there's anything we don't get to though, please stay tuned because we will make sure we answer them in the coming days over our social media. So please definitely get involved with that. All right, so let me get started with a question to all of you. What inspired you all to enter the Pilates industry? And I think we'll start with Elise.
Okay, hi everyone. So definitely my own love for Pilates and my practice is what got me inspired to get into it. So it was about 7 years ago now I found Pilates. It was actually through a rehab setting. I was seeing a physio for a couple of injuries and he recommended that I join their clinical Pilates classes. And at that point, I never even heard of Pilates, but off I went to this class and I just left there so excited for this new form of movement that I discovered. And when I finally finished those classes in the rehab setting, I joined a local studio and started doing more regular classes weekly, and I just totally fell in love with it. And after, just from that own experience in like recovering from those injuries, using Pilates, and I just found that it totally transformed my body as well as my mind. So it was just a real whole body practice. I love the holistic side of it, and I just wanted to know more about it. So that's when I enrolled to study with Unite Health, and I knew that I wanted to share with more people. So that's where my why and my passion came for Pilates.
Thanks, Elise. I love that. And I think that is a huge motivator for so many people when it comes to teaching. If you've got it within you, it is so easy to then share that passion. So I do agree, and I'm sure Katie and Alex agree too. But I'm still going to ask Katie, what inspired you? And I'll just unmute you, Katie.
Thank you.
Okay.
Yes. Hi, everyone. Great to be here tonight. Very exciting night to share with you all. It's very similar, I guess, that initial practice of Pilates, which I was first introduced to for my postnatal recovery after my first son, which was over 11 years ago now. So, and that, just ignited that passion for this type of movement. And I think I've always been a lover of exercise and a lover of movement. I was a dancer as a child to my early 20s. So finding a way to move my body and feel really strong and engaged and mobile, Pilates just became, a passion of mine. And I think as I practiced it more and attended classes, it was those small little cues and progressions that really connected my mind with my body and what I was doing, and feel that feeling of strength and integration. And so I wanted to share that with other people, and I wanted to learn more about the anatomy, the biomechanics of how the body works, and to share this joy of movement with others. So we had open Cadence Physio, but we wanted to go down that Pilates pathway a little bit more, which I'll share a little bit more later on. But one of my really good friends, Mel, who was a physio as well at the time, we both jumped on board the Unite Health course and did our clinical mat and equipment certification. So that was the start of it all.
That's amazing, Katie. And I think you'll agree that when you love it that much, it just doesn't feel like work, does it?
No, not at all.
Yeah, that's amazing. And our other lovely mum, Alex, tell us what inspired you.
Yeah, hi everyone. So excited to be here with you all tonight. And I can completely resonate with what Katie and Elise have said about the sort of mental health, mindfulness aspects of the practice too. Full disclosure, I'm a bit of a convert. I was a yoga teacher first, and I discovered Pilates through yoga. Actually, I was fortunate enough to be teaching at a fabulous studio down here in Geelong, Upstate Studios, who now have locations all over the state. And through teaching there, I got to experience some of the other class styles on the schedule. So I got to practice Pilates both in a mat and reformer setting with that business. And I, like the other panelists have said, absolutely fell in love with the strength of the practice as well, not only physically, but that mental side too, and that empowering side of Pilates. I just really loved, and I really admired all of my favorite teachers who could really draw that out in me and make me feel that really strong, empowered self. And the more, I think I've been involved in the industry for nearly 6 years, and the more I've been involved in Pilates, the more I just love the people who are part of the Pilates industry and landscape. You meet so many incredible people, from the students to the instructors, the studio owners. Everybody there just is a really genuine, good person, and it's so nice to surround yourself with great people.
I completely agree, Alex, and especially working at Unite Health, I can say I'm surrounded by so many wonderful students and instructors, which is amazing. So thank you for that. I'm already inspired just listening to your stories. But Elise, our most recent graduate, can you share a little bit about your training and what you loved about the training with Unite Health?
Yeah, for sure. So I did my training 2 years ago. It was actually during lockdown, so during COVID and everything. So it was all online, but I was still working for that time at my full-time job. And I loved that the training was so flexible to work around your full-time job. So the hours were all offered on the weekend. So I'd still be able to do my 9 to 5 from Monday to Friday and do these hours on the weekend, the face-to-face hours online over Zoom, and work on my logbook while still doing my full-time job, because I wasn't at that point yet where I was able to leave my full-time job and give up that full-time salary. I was just working slowly towards it, making it a side hustle. So yeah, that flexibility was incredible. The workload was really manageable. And the one major thing that's always stood out to me with Unite Health's training is their presenters. Emma, you're also one of my presenters and trainers. And I was just so grateful to have these amazing mentors and trainers through my training. They all come from so many different backgrounds, and they have so much great experience to share. And I found that so invaluable in my training, and the support they offer you. Like, it's just incredible what you're given throughout those days and weeks of training with them. And I think that support and that experience they shared was really what led me to feeling so ready to jump straight into working in the industry as soon as I graduated. Like, literally the week after I graduated, I started working. And I think it's that support and that guidance and that experience that you guys share with us that what leaves us feeling so ready to get into the working. So yeah, it's just incredible training. I could not speak of it highly enough.
Oh, thank you so much, Elise. And we are so proud to see your journey. I remember seeing, I think, your Instagram post from your first class, teaching straight after you've qualified your exam. So yeah, that was an amazing story. And I've just lost my train of thought. I'll come back to it. But thank you so much, Elise. So Katie, whilst training with us, you and your husband opened your studio, which we've already hinted to. Can you tell us about your journey to becoming a studio owner?
Yeah, sure. So we opened back in 2017, and at the time I was in the midst of motherhood with 3 little kids. So it was a little crazy time, but John had, we'd opened Cadence Physio about 2 years prior, and we kind of dreamed of just branching out a little bit further into the Pilates group fitness space. We've had so many clients come through using Pilates as treatment in our clinical setting, and then wanting to continue to do Pilates to maintain their strength and prevent further injury. So my shared love for Pilates kind of collided with John's kind of clinical setting as well. And so I started my APPI training, and we rebranded our fitness Pilates as Cadence Pilates, and we purchased 8 new reformers, and we opened our first studio in the Cadence Physio space in 2017. And that's, I guess how it initially started. Similar stories, I guess, to Elise as well. I was still working as an occupational therapist at the time. So, that balancing act of working as a Pilates instructor, kids, new business. So there was a lot going on, but I think you touched on this before, Emma, as well, the flexibility in the industry and the Pilates work. It just really worked for us. And so as a mission to bring joy to local communities through Pilates grew, we were able to open up our second studio at St. Peter's in 2019, and then Golden Grove in 2020. So I stopped my work as an OT and just immersed myself in the business amongst looking after kids, and it just created a really flexible work-life arrangement for us, which that's kind of the beginning of how Cadence Pilates started.
That's amazing, Katie. 3 studios. I'm just blown away that you've done that in 5 years. That's incredible. And I'm glad you touched on the keyword fitness Pilates, because that is a word that we use a lot in the industry. But I think getting into the industry, I think I would associate fitness Pilates with like, oh yeah, work, sweat, burn, what those keywords, which yes, we can take Pilates in that direction. But for everybody listening, what we mean by fitness Pilates is really Pilates for your like everyday person. And what I mean by that, I know we can't group everyone together, but it's your generally pretty injury free. I know some people always have niggles, but I always say it's your clients that could comfortably walk upstairs into your studio pain-free. So that is the really where we're training you on the Unite Health course as for the Pilates instructor course. And that's probably where a lot of you might be going to group classes currently. It's generally a bigger setting and you're working in that group environment. So that's what we're touching on with fitness Pilates. And I love, obviously there's a huge physio side from the APPI and Unite Health. So Katie has really kind of encompass the whole of what we do at Unite Health with her studio. So I would highly recommend, if you are in Adelaide or ever visiting Adelaide, South Australia, to go get to those studios. But that is what we are meaning. I did see a little question pop up as well about that. So I hope that answers it. And Katie, you did remind me of what I was going to touch on with Elise. Again, just with that balance, and with both Katie and Elise's journeys, I loved that you dove head first, but you also let yourself have some breathing space. And I really love that you don't have to make this huge, like ripping off a Band-Aid and changing your whole life overnight. You can really ease into it. And yes, your lives look so different now, but I love that you kind of dipped your toe in the water and you were able to really smoothly progress into the industry. And I think that's the best way to go, because as an instructor myself, and you all can agree, like you need to build up a bit of a stamina to it. And I think if I just dove straight into teaching 25 classes a week in that first week of teaching, it would be probably very overwhelming. So hopefully this is a great example for everyone listening that, you don't have to change your whole life overnight. You totally can, and we'll be there to support you, but you don't have to. So Alex, what about you? What did you do after your training and how did you enter into the industry? Because you have already said how you were that yogi, me too. But tell us a little bit more about how you kind of came from this journey as Katie and Elise have described. Did you rip the Band-Aid off or did you kind of dip your toe in?
No, I was nowhere near as courageous as Katie and Elise. So I was a very slowly, softly approach. I was working a 9-to-5 and I still am. I love my 9-to-5. And from my lifestyle perspective, I never had any intentions to move away from that. So for me, it was about finding the right way to integrate Pilates as well as yoga in and around that sort of Monday to Friday 9-to-5 kind of work format. So because I was fortunate enough to already be teaching at a studio that was offering Pilates, I was really sort of nurtured by that studio and trained in that sort of upstate brand of Pilates and able to dive straight in and start teaching and start just finding my way through those group fitness classes. To your point, Emma, it's definitely sort of that general population who we're working with in those classes. And just sort of saying yes to every teaching opportunity. So any opportunities to jump in, cover for a friend, to attend a different studio and get chatting to the owners and sort of put yourself out there. It can be a bit of a vulnerable thing to do, but definitely when I look back, they were my best experiences when I was really out of my comfort zone, you know, and I was teaching in those sorts of environments. I also was really fortunate, like you, Emma, during COVID to have some private clients entrust me with their practice. And that was a really great opportunity too, because it's so different teaching one-on-one, two-on-one, small groups versus like a room of 52 people in a 34-degree room. Like it's a completely different space. So really lucky to be able to explore that. And then after, you know, sort of entering the industry and having completed those initial trainings, it was really just about that follow-up training. So understanding how I could upskill and continue to better myself as a Pilates teacher. A really great example is doing some anti-postnatal mat work and reformer training, and some more formal advanced reformer training too.
That's amazing, Alex. And yeah, I again just agree with everything you've said. The saying yes, I think the best experiences I've had in this industry came from just a little phone call or someone you met even 2 years ago, and then you just bump into them again and you're like, yeah, I'll do that. Yeah. And you just have no idea where all these different pathways can take everyone. And again, with the constantly learning, I think that is the only way to also stay I think passionate about the industry. I think with anything, if we stop learning and become complacent, it gets boring. I don't know about you all listening, but I get bored super easy. If I get bored, then I'm like, tick, done, moving on. But I think with Pilates, I just have never got bored because there's always something to learn. And even myself as an instructor, I did my Pilates training elsewhere initially, but then doing the APPI course after being an instructor already for a few years and learning the APPI way before I then became on to be a mentor trainer, I just could not believe how much there was still to learn, and that every year doing different courses, it's incredible. And if it could be a huge one or it could just be a weekend or a 1 hour webinar, there's so many things to learn. So I do love that too. You've already discussed a little bit about your teaching Pilates, Alex, as a side hustle, but I am super interested to know how you manage it as a full-time mum as well, with your full-time job and Pilates. Like, doesn't sound like there's enough hours in the day, but obviously Katie and Alex, you both are amazing mothers. Alex, definitely a question for you, because I personally see a lot of students coming through that are young mums. And when I say young mums, I mean mums of young babies. So yeah, tell us a little more about that journey.
Yeah, sure. So I think I said in the bio she was 11 months old. She's probably 11 months and 3 weeks now, my daughter. I'm just in complete denial that she's almost 1. But yes, and I think Katie touched on this earlier too, the flexibility of working in this industry is just unparalleled. I've never found or seen or heard of any other examples where you can be so flexible and you can really flex week to week with your availability and the sorts of hours you want to work, opportunities to work mornings and weekends and late nights, and just to sort of fit it around whatever else you need to do. So I'd always really valued that as someone with a couple of plates kind of spinning, but definitely becoming a mum was next level in terms of finding that balance and becoming a juggler. And while I was on maternity leave, especially, I just loved that opportunity to teach. My partner works 9 to 5, so I could, run off and teach a 6 a.m. class, come home in time for him to go to work. And, family logistics is just like a whole new topic that I'm learning about in the past year, but it worked really well from that practical sense. But it also worked really well from, I guess, a postpartum recovery sense. For me, I just felt really inspired to teach and to go and connect with the community. And, I really have some of my, favorite regular students who I can see a couple online tonight who just were sort of my sanity check, day to day, just getting to see people and have a chat, do something a bit different, engage with that mind-body connection, and then come back to this mum life, which I absolutely adore, and feel like I'd filled my cup and I had so much more energy to give to my family. And I guess the one thing I've needed to learn and get a little bit better at over the last 12 months or so is my own personal boundaries and where to say yes and where to say that's not quite the right fit. Definitely for me in the last 6 months, I've cut back on where I teach. I've really focused on a couple of key places, one particular studio, a couple of key private opportunities, just to narrow my focus and make sure I can still be giving those students and those classes my absolute best, rather than spreading too thin. And another thing that people may or may not be aware of is, when you're a casual teacher or a subcontractor in that sense with studios, you can choose to either be on the schedule. So you might teach every Monday at 6 a.m. or you can take casual cover classes. So each week to week, you can see what's available and kind of pop your name down for what suits. So I've really been taking full advantage of that. And then the last thing I would just say is making time for my own practice, because definitely sometimes it does feel like you said, Emma, there are not enough hours in the day. And so it's really important to, I think Elise, Katie and yourself, and we've all said it, we all fell in love with Pilates and wanting to teach Pilates off the back of loving the practice for our own selves. So making sure we still have that time for us is super important too.
Yeah, I agree, Alex. That's amazing. And with the note on covers, I'm not a mum, but I love the opportunity for covers for when it comes to holidays or savings. So I would always find when I've got a big holiday coming up, I just work my little tush off for that month before, and I say yes to all these covers. But then it means you can kind of go that all or nothing approach, or you've got that ability to, if you're not feeling well, you can take some time off quite easily. If you feel like you've got all this energy and excitement or, a savings goal, you can up those classes and double your income. And I just don't believe, as you said, it's an unparalleled industry. There's not many industries where you can just overnight adjust your earnings that quickly. And I think more than ever now, with more Pilates studios, with more demand, more just excitement about Pilates, there's even more opportunities to be saying yes to all these new jobs, which is great. And the other thing I want to touch on from what you said, Alex, and again with Katie as well, being a mum, I thought I'd share with you as well, my personal journey is the reason why I actually did become an instructor was because my mum is a yoga instructor and she was a full-time yoga instructor with me growing up. So when I was making the decision on what direction to go, university-wise and all that, I just knew in the back of my mind, I'm really passionate. I really wanted to be a hands-on mother, and I chose this industry for that flexibility. So I met my partner 7 years ago, and, I think within the first week I was like, I want to be a mum and I'm doing this so I can be a mum. So I've got that flexibility. I know all mothers can look differently, but just to have that flexibility, it's so exciting to know that it's there when I begin my journey too.
That's so exciting, Emma. I thought it might be quickly worth clarifying as well, because I realized I might have used some jargon that's studio specific, but covers classes is really just when, so most studios will have a regular schedule, and the teachers that are on that regular schedule, if someone calls in sick or takes a holiday, obviously somebody else needs to take that place and jump in. So when I'm talking about covers, I'm sort of talking about covering a shift, I suppose, where every class is its own shift in a sense.
Yeah, it's kind of like a relief teacher. I think that would be the closest thing that we can say. Yeah. I'm glad you brought that up. There are so many, so many words that we use in the industry that we forget. So speaking more about the industry, back to you, Elise. We've already touched on the fact how you were teaching part-time and then you made this huge jump to teaching Pilates as a full-time instructor. Can you tell us about that journey, jumping from part-time to full-time? But also I would personally love to hear what your day-to-day involves, what your week looks like. So take it away.
Yeah, for sure. So it definitely wasn't something that happened overnight, that whole jump. But since becoming qualified, it was a desire that was on my heart for a long time. So I knew before making that leap into Pilates full time, I wanted to set myself up properly, and I was very strategic about my approach. That's why I did take that 2 years before making that leap. So yeah, I worked my corporate event management job for 9 years. I was in the industry for 9 years, but it was really just a job for me. Like I didn't have a passion for it, like what I found in Pilates. Yeah, so when I discovered Pilates, there was something that really drew me to that industry, and I knew I wanted to know more. I knew I wanted to share that with more people, and that's when I became qualified. And at that point, I didn't really know what exactly I wanted to do with it. I just thought, I'm just going to start and I'll figure out later. I didn't have that goal in mind. I'm going to quit my full-time job. I'm going to do this full-time. That kind of just all developed as I went. And yeah, as I fell in love with the industry more. And then right after I graduated, I did jump straight into working in the industry. As we mentioned, I was still working my 9 to 5, but I just worked that little side hustle around my 9 to 5. So I started with just 2 evening classes a week after work. And that quickly became 4 classes a week in the evening, which then became 6. And then there was weeks when I was even doing 11 classes a week, like early mornings, late nights, weekend classes. Like it was a big balancing act. I'm not gonna lie, those were tough weeks and they were very draining, but I knew this was like short-term sacrifice. I had to work really hard short-term for that long-term goal that I had for myself to work in this industry and do more in this space. And yeah, I really did work out in that time that I love this industry and this is really what I want to do. It just felt really natural. I felt very at home in the studio and with my clients, and unlike what I'd find in my corporate job, it just brought me happiness and it brought me joy and it made me feel fulfilled. And I just felt aligned when I was working Pilates, and that's just not something that I found in my corporate role. But yeah, so by that time I'd been, I think it's about end of last year now we're at, I've been in the industry for about 1.5 years, and I felt like I had the confidence now, I had the experience and I had the contacts that I could make this a full-time thing. I could make that leap and it'd be successful rather than just going straight off the bat right after I graduated without that kind of backing that I wanted for myself. And I had been working like since graduating on making myself like financially stable to be able to leave that stability of a full-time corporate income, because I knew I would be taking quite a pay cut to what I was doing in my corporate role. And I was very lucky in the situation I was in. I had savings and I had the incredible support of my fiance and my family, and they all backed me every step of the way, and they all just encouraged me to just do what I love, and life's too short. Dad would always tell me, we had many conversations with Dad, especially about going back and forth, like, do I quit? Do I stay? And like his advice was just like, life's too short to keep doing something that you're not enjoying. Like you get one chance at this. You're so passionate about this. You love it so much. You're a hard worker. You're going to make it work. And if you love it, you're passionate about it, you're going to make it work and you will be successful. So that was really helpful in making that decision to leave. And yeah, I knew it was going to be hard, but off I went. I handed in my resignation, and I think about 4 months ago now I did that, and I started with just 8 classes a week at my local studio that I was working at. But I think it was within about 2 weeks of quitting that the head trainer role at my studio was offered to me, as was becoming a shadow mentor and 18 hours of classes a week. So things just kind of fell into place. I was very lucky with the timing, but I think by leaving that corporate role and putting myself in that space and opening myself up to those opportunities, those doors opened for me because I was open to them in a weird way as that might sound. But yeah, I think it just all kind of worked out very, very perfectly and better than I could have hoped. So that kind of brings me to where I am now, working full-time in the industry, head trainer. I'm a shadow mentor now at my studio, and lots of little exciting things popping up. I'm doing a bit of contract work on the side. So yeah, it's really fallen into place. I feel like there's a second part of the question that
That's right. No, all good. I'll jump in. That's amazing. Before I ask you that second part, I'll just, again, with our Pilates jargon, for anyone interested in knowing what shadow mentoring is, we're talking about the training of when generally an instructor is training to be an instructor. Some studios will offer them to teach real life people in real life class settings, but usually shadowing along with an experienced instructor. So in this case, Elise is the amazing experienced instructor, having other trainers now train from her in her classes and maybe teaching like 20 minutes of her class here and there. So that is awesome to hear, Elise. So the other question I had is, and you've kind of touched on it already, but could you tell us how many days a week you're working? Typical hours, I'm sure it does change, and also how many classes a week you are teaching.
Yeah, so yeah, like I said, every day is kind of different, which is what I love about this industry.
Yeah.
So I love morning classes. So I love having my morning block, which usually will start around 5 or 6 a.m. and I'll be done by 9. So then I have the rest of the day to go about my day. And that's usually involved working on my own personal brand. So at the moment I'm teaching about 2 to 3 mornings a week. I do one evening block as well, and we'll be taking on a day block eventually as schedules change coming into this new month now, and also doing a Sunday block. That's about 3 to 4 classes on a Sunday. So yeah, it's all over the place, like morning classes, day classes, some night classes, weekend classes. But yeah, I wouldn't have it any other way. It's just nice to mix it up. But yeah, like I said, I do prefer that morning class, and I just have my whole day to go about. And yeah, it's roughly about 4 days a week I'm teaching. So I have about 3 to myself where I'm just able to work on my own stuff or just relax.
Yeah, that's amazing. And I think, yeah, with instructors, people are either morning people or they're not. And I think there's a pretty good balance in the industry, because I'm like you, Elise. I love mornings. I love working my mornings and then, having that rest of the day off. But then I've got some friends who just love having the mornings to themselves, having that lazier start, or, their own time in the morning and then working in the evenings. So again, another amazing reason why this industry is so flexible. So thank you for sharing with us, Elise. I just can't believe you've done all that in, the 2 years since you graduated your course with us. So congratulations again. Katie, speaking of business, what are the highlights of you owning your own business? Oh, hold on. Again, just
I'm a bit slow on the unmute. There we go. Got there. Okay. Yeah. So I think the highlights of owning our own business is definitely the members that you work with, which is in the whole industry, the people you work with, and how you get to share in their journey across our whole business. So I guess one of the things that makes us, which we kind of touched on a little bit before, unique, I guess, in this Pilates space, is that we have the physio and the Pilates kind of working together here, and there's that real symbiotic nature of how we have clients come from physio into Pilates, and yeah, just kind of see them at that different parts of that continuum along from their injury or recovery all the way through to continuing their strength and conditioning and improving their own movement and experience of Pilates. So I guess that's one of the joys of owning your own business. I think as well, sorry, I had some notes here and I've just mixed it all up. I'll get back to it. I think as well as our business has grown, my love for teaching has also grown as well. So I've moved into much more of a training development role at Cadence. I've had the opportunity as well to be presenter for Unite Health, which I absolutely love, working with the students that come through there. And just being able to invest in others is just such a highlight of owning our own business, seeing how our staff grow in their confidence, in their excellence of teaching, and how they're making a difference in the well-being and the lives of others. And it's just such a privilege and a joy to be part of that. And I think sharing the ownership and leadership of Cadence with John as well, that partnership that we have together, and the fact that he is my husband as well and life partner, that's a real joy for us to be able to share our passions and our career together, and build our business around what we love. It's created a family for us at Cadence, with our staff, with our members, but also that flexibility again to work around our own family. And so with that, we've really created our own values around who Cadence is, and that really guides our business. And I think it's really one of those important things in business is to find what your values are and how that's going to guide your decisions and the way you run a studio or whatever you're, you might be working in whatever industry here. But we really hold on to those values. We just have 5 values. It's around authentic relationships, being inclusive, creativity and precision, remaining teachable, and being generous. And those values placed in such a high position in our business, in the way that we work with our clients, the way we would work with our staff. It's created a space where our members really feel supported, challenged. They feel they know they're seen, and they find community. So it's that trusted space where we find that our members and our staff really experience that joy through Pilates. So yeah, I think they're probably kind of got all over the place there, but some highlights of owning your own business and really setting those values, setting that vision, and it aligning so nicely with who you are as a person as well, and your own personal values.
Yeah, that's amazing. And you did touch on about the flexibility of owning your own business. So I agree with you, Katie. I'm 100% self-employed and I've got my own business. And that would be, to me, the highlight is that, you're not requesting leave from someone else. You get to choose your holidays. There's that added flexibility as well. I think last year I took at least 12 weeks annual leave, which was lovely. I agree with you there. But could you maybe touch on, because there obviously are, being realistic, there are so many challenges on as well, operating your own business. I think the pros certainly outweigh the cons, but could you touch on maybe one or two challenges you might have faced with your journey?
Yeah, I think, you're working with people and you're working with staffing, and you talked a little bit about covers as well. And on the other side of that, as a Pilates instructor, when you put your hand up for covers and stuff, it's awesome. But also on our side, if that class isn't being covered, it comes back to us. So I think that's probably one of the biggest challenges. Look, the last few years with COVID have chucked a whole heap of challenges there with staffing, managing sick leave, managing, the balance of who can work, who can't work. I think last year we had like half our staff having COVID or being a close contact. And, it definitely, there's a lot of stress that comes along with that, because really at the end, the responsibility falls on you. So there's high responsibility. I think probably some of that is you're responsible for other people as well. And you carry a load with that as well. So we employ staff, so we're responsible to make sure that we have enough work that they're going to get paid. So there's a responsibility in that, but definitely the positives outweigh those challenges. And as I said, like just being able to work with our staff, we love people. So being able to work with them and see them grow and give them opportunity. And again, that flexibility, we're each other's boss. So it's like, well, I'm working in the morning, you're working in the afternoon, you can pick up the kids. Like there's just, the flexibility is amazing. We've been able to take plenty of time off for holidays with our family as well, and have an amazing team continue to run Cadence. So there's so many benefits. I could talk about it for ages, but it's
amazing. Yeah, I agree, Katie. And with the whole covers and needing, that responsibility coming back on you, I'm sure you'd agree with me though, how I don't think you could do it. I mean, you can't do it as well if you're not an instructor yourself, because my business and John, like the fact that we are instructors, that if it is desperate and you can, you don't want it to affect your life all the time, but the fact that you could quickly drop what you're doing and be there to cover that class. I think the best studios that I've seen personally are the ones that are run by people with experience with that instructing background. So a whole heap of benefits that come from being that person face-to-face in the studio, but then also, being there to help your staff too. So I love that you and John are a team doing that. Elise, back to you with kind of touching on this. Did you face any challenges from this other side of it, getting into the industry, maybe freshly graduated? How did you go from that perspective? Any fears that you might have had?
Yeah, definitely. I think firstly, confidence. That was probably my biggest thing starting out, being so new to the fitness industry, never had taught before, had that corporate background, confidence in myself in teaching. That was probably the biggest challenge and probably my biggest fear when teaching my first class. But I was lucky I had a really lovely mentor who was there with me in my first class. So that really made things a lot easier. And the more experience you get with teaching, that fear definitely goes away. And I have no problem now getting in front of a class of how many people and taking control and teaching now. So it's definitely something that comes with time. What was the challenges of teaching? Was that the question? Gone off a tangent again.
Yeah, I guess just any challenges that you might have faced. I mean, I think you've hit it on the head. It's just more the personal doubt, isn't it?
Yeah, for sure. I think that was definitely the biggest thing. And just also the concern of like, how am I going to balance this? I apologize, my puppy's in the background barking. Just the concern of like, how am I going to balance this all? But I think you kind of figure it out as you go. You figure out your limits, you figure out your like happy point where you can take on those classes while still working a full-time job and maintaining your sanity and a good like personal life as well. And that was definitely something that again comes with trial and error. And as you go, you kind of figure it out. That was definitely a challenge, like finding, as like I said, I did 11 classes one week and I was like, that is just way too much for me to manage. And I was just so drained, so run down after that. But I found like my happy point between like 6 to 8 classes a week when I was working full-time. And now that I've jumped into that full-time work, I'm still going to like dabble and find out what kind of works for me now.
And you spoke about the kind of that financial kind of challenge or being scared to drop a 9-to-5 job. So obviously not needing to share with us personal details, but coming from it now the other side, do you feel financially secure? Have you kind of overcome that obstacle?
100%. That's a big challenge. I should have mentioned that. Yeah, that was definitely something that made me so hesitant for a long time to leave, because obviously I was working corporate. I'd worked my way up to a pretty well-paid job, and leaving that to work in a Pilates industry, kind of start from scratch, there was that concern, like, how am I going to pay my bills? I had a mortgage. How am I going to do this? So that's probably why it did take so long. And yeah, I think that was why it became so important for me to establish myself first, get that experience, get those contacts where I could feel like I could just jump into a studio, just put myself out there, and I could get classes without having to worry. And like you said, you kind of take on as many or as little classes as you want. So once you have that availability now, I can take on whatever I want, and like kind of my income earning potential is just limited by what I want to do. And I've been able to get that work in a studio where I'm now the head trainer. I'm doing those 18 classes a week, but I'm also got work on the side where I'm doing contract work for companies, filming workouts. I've got other stuff on the side through social media. So there's lots of different income streams. You can kind of make yourself feel secure. I think it's just all about setting yourself up properly first and not jumping in the deep end straight away. Like it might work for some people, but for me, it just wasn't the situation that I was able to do and feel secure doing so.
Yeah, thank you, Elise. And yeah, I can't imagine. I've never worked 9 to 5, but Alex, even Katie, Elise, like, you know, from your journeys, like I could imagine how scary that would be to let go of that. So for me, and I guess I would be more in that, like I got into this straight out of uni. So I was used to earning nothing at university. So I kind of gradually was able to build it up that way. But just speaking on what Elise has said with, again, those different income streams. And then speaking of this financial security, just touching a little bit, because I'm sure that is a big question for a lot of you interested in terms of like where wages start. And without going into the nitty gritty, because it really does vary what you're doing and where you're doing it. But we do have, like we do say usually like a studio role, working at a studio, you're generally earning between $40 to $70 per class. So that's usually per hour. And then you're usually teaching that in about a 4-hour block, most of the time. It might be 3 hours, it might be 5 hours, but you're usually getting a few classes back to back. So there's already, if you're doing maths there, you know, if you're doing that as a side hustle, you've got a little bit of income there. Now, where I think the pros and cons go is that my earning potential has now like doubled, tripled from that in terms of what I'm doing, because I'm working for myself. Katie can agree. From that business side of it, you're having to obviously put in much more hours behind the scenes. So I think there are huge benefits to going down either path. The fact that you're getting a really pretty nice pay rate for just going in and teaching a class for somebody else who's provided the electricity, who's provided the marketing, who's provided the clients. You know, you're not having to do anything really outside your time except going in and teaching that hour. So in a way, you're getting a lot of bang for your buck. And then if you are wanting to go and do it yourself, you could increase that further, but then obviously you're having to put in the marketing, put in the administration, put in the accounting, all of that stuff. So I guess that's how I would touch on the wages. Alex, do you have any other kind of suggestions or advice there around just this financial stability or side hustling full-time?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, there's been so many great examples. I think probably some builds I'd make is that absolutely it's a really good rate to go in and teach. And then you sort of consider that you need to be there a certain time before to do sign-ins, check people in, greet everybody, obviously wait at the studio until people leave. So you sort of, yes, space that out over the block, like you were mentioning, Emma. I guess just in terms of some of the challenges, or maybe just some of the less obvious, less overt parts of being a Pilates teacher, I wanted to mention that there is time in class prep, and that definitely gets easier and comes more naturally as you go and you get that experience. But at the start, like I remember practicing my own classes, writing them out, 4 different times, practicing them myself, memorizing them, incorporating playlists if you're teaching in a studio or an environment where there's music involved, incorporating props if that's something that the studio you're teaching out of the clients you're working with would like to use. So there's a bit in that sort of preparatory space, but the best thing there as well is that it is so flexible, and it sounds like we'd all be in this boat. It's fun. That's one of the fun parts. Totally resonate with that vulnerability, that sort of imposter syndrome sometimes. I've been teaching for over 5 years. I still get nervous. I taught a 5:30 a.m. class this morning and walked in and went to switch my mic on and thought, oh, I need to take a deeper breath. I'm a little bit up here this morning. So, that can come and go in my experience. And, I think as well, the vulnerability increases as you sort of start to teach in those different environments. So absolutely for a private class, I know that can vary hugely, but sometimes you can be looking at between sort of $80 and $250 per private class, but obviously there's a lot more expectation when you're delivering at that sort of level and charging that sort of price point. So there's I guess some of that vulnerability there too. We touched on some of the exposure elements, but obviously being a subcontractor, you need to have your own insurance, you need to have first aid, you need to have CPR, and these are all the sorts of things that, with a Unite Health course, we'd absolutely educate you about and continue to be that support and resource for you. Totally relate to that match fitness. It's pretty hard to just wake up one day and decide you're going to teach, a bunch of classes in a week, but that builds over time. Absolutely. Maintaining your own practice absolutely helps with that too, in my experience, and being really open to kind of those late nights, early starts. If you're that sort of person, a bit of a night owl or a bit of an early bird, it's a really great fit. But if you prefer to, make sure you're always home for dinner or you get to sleep in each morning, then that might sort of limit the opportunities you have to teach in that more casual capacity.
Yeah, I agree, Alex. That's amazing. And I guess you've also inspired me with another kind of challenge and fear, and I could relate this to, again, coming from someone with a 9-to-5 background or anything else, but just that feeling of being a bit isolated, because this is something I do talk a lot with the students about, especially in the final weeks of our course, is unlike many other jobs, although it is, don't get me wrong, it is such a social industry. You're there hanging out with clients all day, every day. But the actual workforce side of it is a pretty isolating experience coming in, even as Alex, you described this morning. You come into a dark studio, generally by yourself. I know Upstate usually has another staff member, so that's amazing. But in my experience, it was coming into a dark studio by yourself, like having to amp yourself up and then be this smiling personality, and then everyone leaves and you're back on your own. So in terms of that, like I can paint that picture quite grim, but also it's amazing that you've got the clients there within it. But it just means that, as Alex as well said, like taking time for your own practice. And where I found the social element with my classes was going to other instructors' classes and making that community with instructors. I think we've all already touched on this, but it is a huge industry, but it's a really welcoming industry. And I've got friends all over the place who all have different niches, and you can go and learn off them, or you can go and, vent to them. I mean, Katie, you probably don't get get this because you can vent to your partner. But if I vented to my partner about someone doing something on a blue spring instead of a red spring, he would have no idea what I mean. So sometimes I need to pick up that phone and call somebody who is in the industry and just go, ah. So there are those challenges there, but I think if you can keep yourself passionate, keep yourself accountable, going to classes, and I used to do it in my first year or two even. I had a thing with a friend, and I think it was once a month or even once every 2 months. It might not have been as often, but we both would make sure we get to each other's class once in that month, and we'd give each other that feedback. So you've got that ongoing mentorship, which some studios offer, which we can see with Elise's studio. She's already that role for others. Katie, I'm sure, I'm speaking for you here, but I'm sure between yourself, John, and other staff members, you're on the ground there. But from my experience, other studios I've worked at, it was quite isolating. So I guess just cultivating that experience and that community yourself, that would be one of my big advices if we're finishing off the challenges. Would you agree, ladies? Yeah. So to wrap up the conversation tonight, don't go anywhere yet, everybody, because we do have a beautiful, fun offer coming your way. But just to wrap up our panelist discussion, if you all, Alex, Katie, and Elise, could just give me one word of, I don't even know how to say this, but summing up your experience with Pilates, what you love about Pilates, all of that encompasses it. Just one word. Let's go. Elise, kick us off.
Gosh, that's so hard in one word on the spot as well. I just incredible comes to mind. It's just experience itself, the work is just incredible. It's another level. I just love it so much, and I can't speak highly of enough. So yeah, I just think it's just absolutely incredible. Transformational, also another good word.
All right, I'm writing these down. Incredible, transformational. Katie, let's go. One word for you.
I'm just going with joy. That's a bit of our theme, our cadence as well, is to bring joy. And yeah, Pilates brings great joy to me and to everyone who does it, I believe.
Love that. Love it. Alex, what about you?
I'm going to go with empowering. I said it early, and that's definitely
mine.
Oh no, sorry, we should have exchanged notes. It's how I think we all feel as students, and how we probably hope to make our students feel as teachers. But absolutely, I also get that feeling teaching, and when you sort of get that energy off your students. So yeah, it's there all round.
Incredible, joyful, empowering. I love that all. So thank you so much to our panelists, but everybody as well listening. I've loved the engagement we've had in our Q&A. I'm going to hand it back to Laura now, because we do have something very exciting to announce. So do not go anywhere. We've got a minute or two to go.
Yes, thank you so much, everyone. That was such a great session. I hope everyone got so much out of it, and so good to see so many questions coming through. But to, I guess, let you guys know what this special announcement is that we've been holding hostage from you. So tonight we are launching our winter hype sale. This is going to be a huge savings of $1,900 on the total course price. So 14 days of training, all of your course materials and manuals included, your certification assessments, little bonuses we throw in as well. So it is a huge savings. Now, when we have done something like this in the past, the course intakes tend to book out really, really quickly. So you guys are getting early access. It means you can jump on, book your spot before the rush comes when we officially launch tomorrow. The website has all been updated, so you don't need any codes. You can just jump on and book in your session. So the intakes are available, they're ready to go. And yeah, you've got early exclusive access to our special offer this month. So really excited to hopefully see some of you guys on the courses coming up in all states, everywhere in Australia.
That is so exciting to hear, Laura. And I personally can't wait to see, hopefully, a few people from this course that we've been chatting with on one of my next courses. So that is amazing. We will stay on the chat for a few more minutes for anyone who does have any other questions, but I am going to wrap up this beautiful discussion with everybody. If you haven't already been following us on Instagram, we are quite active on Instagram as Unite Health. So in the most recent post, you'll be able to find links to all of our lovely panelists tonight, Alex, Katie and Elise. Myself, might scroll down a little bit, but I'm also on there. I teach a few online classes as well. So if you want to jump in and see what a APPI reformer or a mat Pilates class is like, you'll find that all on our Instagram, as well as any other questions that we might not have got to tonight. We promise we will get to those as well. So thank you again to all of you who have been with us, and thank you to our panelists. We hope to see you all in some capacity soon, and I hope you all have a lovely night or day wherever you are joining from. Thank you.
Yes, thank you so much, everyone. A final note, I'm just popping another link in our chat here. If you do want to book a time to chat with the team, you get a free consult with us. So jump on and book in your spot to chat. And thank you again, everyone, for attending. Really, really exciting.
Amazing. All right. So long, everybody. Lots of love.